start with a little bit about myself. When I was 13, 20 years ago, my dad died after several years of illness, and in the last year of his life, we started learning and playing music together. We used to gather together in the living room and stumble our way through a book of tunes, and it was my dad on his guitar, my mum on her flute, and me on my trombone. It's a bit of a weird trio of instruments, but it's what we had. One of our favorites to play was Blue Christmas by Elvis Presley. It was a yearning song of loss for any of those of you that don't know it, but it took on a special sad significance when we played it together. We also started painting together that year. We created images of the forces of good fighting against my dad's cancer, and I can remember my painting was an image of me, starred me, of course, in a forklift truck that was lifting a tree up from across the road that was blocking my dad from running along the road where he was being pursued by a monster with long claws. At my dad's memorial service, I played Blue Christmas, and it was very frightening. But it was the best way that I could pay tribute to the way that we'd built a connection that year through the arts. After his death, in the years that followed, my mum encouraged me to write plays and to get into acting, which helped me channel some of my more difficult emotions through the lives of others. When I was 18, I got a part in a play called Beautiful Thing at the local pub theatre here in Birmingham. My character was called Steve, and he's a teenage boy who lives on a tough estate, and he falls in love with another teenage boy, Jamie, his next-door neighbour. The production company behind the play didn't want to bill it as a gay play. They didn't want to put off their normal punters, who were mainly the regular drinkers from the pub downstairs. So they sold it as a comedy about young love. There was a scene that I particularly remember when the audience worked out what was going on. So my character, Steve, has just been beaten black and blue by his brother and his dad, and he's seeking refuge for the night at Jamie's house and his mum's house next door. He and Jamie are top and tailing in Jamie's bed, and Jamie, seeing the horrific bruises and cuts on Steve's back, offers quite sheepishly to rub in some of his mum's peppermint foot lotion. Steve, my character, hesitatingly agrees, and then what follows is a very awkward, tentative, tense, complex, beautiful scene that concludes in a long kiss, and it's their first kiss. Now, I was a bit nervous playing this moment in front of an audience made up of the regular drinkers from downstairs, my teenage mates, my mum. But the generosity of the audience in response to the play was a game changer for me in my life, as was the creative process. By embodying the life and the words of Steve, I was able to start to accept and understand my own sexuality. By playing out his problems, I could see that I was quite lucky in comparison, and I was inspired by Steve's mixture of courage and tenderness to start to imagine ways that I could perhaps share my sexuality with others. A little later that year, when I was still 18, my mum died suddenly of an illness, and when she knew that she was dying, she teamed up. She set to work on a creative collaboration with her sister, my aunt, who's a professional sculptress. My mum worked in education. They started work on a sculpture that would encapsulate a parting message from my mum to us all. The message was, the present is all we have, so embrace it. The sculpture is called Now, and everyone in the family got one. It still gives me strength, and I can feel that my mum's present in it. After she died, I wrote lots of furious, dark, bad poetry probably, and I threw myself into lots of acting roles with increased intensity. It was a channel, it was a way that I could, an outward route for some of my harder emotions, and it was a way that I could share that stuff meaningfully with others. What it also provided me, though, was communities, supportive communities. My parents instilled in me from a very young age the belief that we are all creative, that we all own the arts, and we can all use them whenever we want to help make our lives better and connect with others. I believe that if they hadn't taught me that, I wouldn't have got through those crazy 5 years or so with my psychological health intact. I could have quite easily turned to drug abuse, alcohol. I could have certainly dropped out of education, and if I had, faced with unemployment prospects and boredom, I could have become violent, and who knows what. But I'm one of the lucky ones. When I'm working with a group of young people, they often express a fear about improvising, about stepping into the unknown, about putting themselves out there. And I always share an analogy with them that was once shared with me. I say, okay, during our creative process, there's going to be a moment when each and every one of you is going to be required to jump off the diving board. When you do, don't shuffle cautiously and slowly towards the edge and have a little look down to check that there's water there and then plop safely down. No, take a running leap of faith, hurl yourself off without hesitation. Don't check that there's water beneath, because the rest of us, the group, the ensemble as we call it, will provide the water every time. The non-judgmental support and generosity of the ensemble will allow you to be safe whether you majestically dive or whether you horrifically belly flop, and both are equally valuable in the creative process. The safe, supportive atmosphere of a community around you makes an unbelievably powerful difference. I think when you're in creative work or any process, if you feel the solidarity of the group, then you grow and you can achieve astonishing things. My friend Brian works a lot in theatre, and he works with young people even more than I do, and he shared an insight with me, which I quite liked. Arts, especially performance, is the only real preparation for life. Why? Our experience of everyday life is not at all like preparing for an exam, i.e. rote memorization. No. Life is actually a sort of improvisation in which we're constantly thrown new circumstances, where we never know what's going to happen next, and where we're constantly having to rely on ever-changing ensembles, whether that be our families, our co-workers, our partners and friends, our nations, and our societies. And as has already been suggested earlier today, just imagine what kinds of societies or workplaces or families we might be able to come up with if the arts were the foundation stone of the education system. But it's not only about participating in the arts. Participating in the arts does make us healthier, happier people, I'm convinced of that. But engaging with other people's artwork also does. The writer A.L. Kennedy talked about this recently in a discussion about the future of Europe. And she was making the point that culture literally stops us killing each other. She said, whereas tabloid newspapers and reality TV shows present people as glamorous, sordid, stereotyped, sociopaths, and create in us feelings, the lowest feelings of envy and disgust towards those people, good art, whether that's a Picasso painting or an American TV drama, shows us that people are actually quite interesting. People are nuanced, complex, struggling. It shows us that people who we think are very different or far away from us are actually much closer than we thought. And in general, good art shows us that people of all sorts deserve our empathy. I believe that the arts should be central to all of our lives. They protect us from the ignorance, the lack of empathy that can cause cruelty. They help us recover and repair, and they equip us to nurture meaningful relationships. But I think the arts have been marginalized by an economic, political, social system that undervalues empathy and collaboration and overvalues individualism and competition. I think it's a system that tells us that we need to build up and protect what's ours, and that we need to strive to distinguish ourselves from the rest of the pack in order to be happy and succeed. And it's a system that's left brutal social problems and searing inequalities in its wake. The arts, I believe, offer a strong, serious, rebuttal to that. But the arts are not equally in everyone's hands. Technology, as we've heard today, is doing wonderful things and can do wonderful things, but it has led us to a place where many people don't read poetry or literature anymore. Schools, many schools, feel the pressure of league tables and of competition, and therefore restrict drama and dance, and so many brilliant young people lose confidence in school. The universities have been sold down the river, and as a result, most young people have to see a degree as a cautious investment in a bankable career. And an arts degree is a risk that only some are able to take. Meanwhile, other young people are restricted and excluded from educational and creative opportunities because of language barrier, immigration status. So the adults that actually do pursue the arts into adulthood are the lucky ones, like me, who have been raised on the importance of the arts at home, but even more crucially, have the personal financial security to feel that they can take the risk. But if only the lucky, privileged people become the artists in our society, then diverse voices go unheard, diverse concerns go unrepresented, and the massive benefit of participating in the arts is felt only by those few, thus perpetuating privilege. But we can reverse this trend, and today's been wonderful. It's really a creative exchange. It's been a generous collaboration in the true artistic sense, and who knows where we'll end up, but I'm sure some exciting new ideas and initiatives will come out of this conversation. I was at a similar event to this 5 years ago. It was an open space conference, and it was focused on developing the arts for the West Midlands. Out of that creative exchange, out of that generous collaboration, emerged a brand new idea that none of us had thought of before. We would start a European theatre festival here in our city. And we've just celebrated the 5th edition here on this stage, actually. And over the 5 years, what's been most inspiring to see happen is that a growing community of very diverse, multilingual young people has collected around the festival. Many of them got involved initially through the Youth Theatre Project and then through volunteering, and they've come back to do more each year. 3 of them are now paid members of our core management team. Only one of them's aged over 21, and not all of them went to university. It goes without saying, though, that their involvement has been as beneficial for us as it has been for them. And that's felt really exciting, and that's happened organically, but I think that there's a lot more that we in the creative industries can do. We who do work in the creative industries, and probably other industries, need to throw open our doors. We need to open our doors to young people of every background, and we need to create powerful, free, accessible alternatives to university and mainstream further education and training. We need to offer and create the spaces that nurture and develop young people's creativity if we want to change the face of the arts, if we want to change the face of other industries, if we want to change the face of society. But I'm not just calling out to those of you that work in creative industries. I'm calling out to all of you because we all know a young person, and we are all creative. You are all creative. You are all artists. As Pablo Picasso said, every child is an artist. The problem is how to stay one when he's an adult, something like that. And that is the challenge. But if we want to put the arts back at the center of life and learning, where I believe they belong, then we need to lead by example. And I couldn't put it better than Kurt Vonnegut, who says something like, practicing an art, however well or badly, is a way to make your soul grow for goodness sake, for heaven's sake, possibly. Sing in the shower, dance to the radio, write a poem, even a lousy poem, to a friend. Tell a story. Do it as well as you possibly can. You will get an enormous reward. You'll have created something. Now, these are words not to be taken lightly, I think. Let's put art back at the heart, and not just for the lucky ones. Thank you.